Hi folks, welcome back to Stacey Can. Today I'm making vegetable bean soup, which is a wonderful recipe to use because you can use any variety of vegetables that work for you and your family and what you like and don't like. You can leave out as long as you use the exact ratio of vegetables for this tested recipe. We are pressure canning. It is essential that you use tested recipes. Don't make up your own. This is a recipe from the Ball Canning Book, Blue Book of Guide to Preserving. This is a fantastic recipe book for canning, and I will have this particular recipe below because this recipe that they have asks for lima beans, which my family doesn't like, and they also ask for more carrots, which I don't like, so I sort of switched out the number of carrots to more celery because that's what we like, and it asks for corn. We don't have good corn at the moment. This is winter canning, so I'm using more root vegetables. You really can do anything as long as you are using the correct ratios. So just keep that in mind. I'll have both recipes, what I'm doing and what the recipe calls for exactly, in the notes below. So what we need are 4 cups of chopped tomatoes. I'm reading my list here. 1.5 quarts of cubed potatoes. You want your vegetables to be about an inch. This is one a little bit bigger, but you want them to be about inch cubes, give or take a little bit. Let's see, that's potatoes, 4 cups of sliced carrots, a quart of red beans, 5 cups of, I'm using this purple radish. I think it might be a daikon. I'm saying it wrong, but it's purple radish. We could possibly lose the color when you're pressure canning because 240 degrees is pretty hot potato. And you can lose the color, you kind of lose the color in your carrots and things like that because that's such a high heat. So just keep that in mind. 5.5 cups of sliced celery. We've got 2 cups of chopped onion, and I've got 3 cups of parsnips. So again, you can use turnips, you can use rutabaga, you can use more potato, less potato, but make sure your ratios for the vegetables is correct and accurate for safe preservation. The other thing that you're going to need is 1.5 quarts of water, salt and pepper to taste, and if you would like to add some other seasoning to it, you can. Seasonings is some area that you can get creative with and use for your family. You can spice it up if you want. You can add some oregano or basil or whatever spices that work for you and your family. So the tools that you're going to need, I mentioned the canner. You're going to need your jars, lids, rings. This makes about 7 quarts. So you're also going to need your jar lifter. We don't need a lid lifter today because I'm not heating the lids. You do need a paper towel to clean the rims with. You need your headspace tool. You'll need a ladle, and you'll also need your funnel to boot, and chopstick because we will definitely be bubbling. It's essential to bubble. So with all of that, let's get started. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to combine all of the ingredients. And so far I have the tomatoes, the potatoes, and the carrots and the beans in here. You'll notice I've had to put it in 2 pots. It is just way too much stuff to put in just 1 pot for this amount of vegetables. So we're just going to kind of evenly distribute the vegetables and the beans. I'm just eyeballing it too. You don't have to get too technical. It's about half of the onion and half the parsnip. 1.5 quarts of water, which is basically, it's 3 cups each pot. I've got all the vegetables and the beans separated equally into 2 pots. I've added the water, and I'm bringing the burners are on high, and we're going to bring this to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, we'll reduce it to a simmer and set the timer for 15 minutes. The mixture has come to a boil, and so I've dropped it down to a simmer, and I've set the timer for 15 minutes. Timer's gone off. And I'm going to go ahead and season with some salt and a little pepper. I've got the jar out of the canner here that was heating up, and because you don't want to put a hot item into a cold jar. And we're filling the jars up to a 1-inch headspace. Make sure you bubble. And we're gonna need a little bit more liquid here. Make sure you bubble real good. And as you bubble, you'll notice that the foods settle a little bit in there. We'll go ahead and clean the rim real good. Add your lid, your ring. Finger tighten only. Use your jar lifter. Remember, up and over and into the canner it goes. And repeat. I got the canner full. Now we're gonna go ahead and put the lid on, tighten it up, and we're gonna get the turn the heat up to high, and we're gonna wait for our steady stream of steam to come out of the vent pipe here, and then we will set the timer for 10 minutes. Got a steady stream of steam, so we're gonna set the timer for 10 minutes. Timer's gone off, so I'm covering the vent pipe. When it gets up to 11 pounds of pressure for this dial gauge canner, we'll set the timer for an hour and a half. For quarts, if you're doing pints, it would be 55 minutes. And it's 10 pounds of pressure if you're using a weighted gauge. So the dial gauge reads 11 pounds of pressure. So I set the timer for an hour and 25 minutes for quarts. If you're using pints, you would do that for 55 minutes. If you have a weighted gauge, you would get it up to 10 pounds of pressure. So, and then the same time, 55 minutes for pints and an hour and 25 minutes for quarts. The dial gauge has hit 0. And once it hit 0, I went ahead and let the canner set for another 5 minutes before we take the lid off and take off the cover for the vent pipe. Purpose for that is that it helps the jars seal. So just keep that in mind. It's a good thing to do. So we're going to go ahead and remove the cover and take the lid off. Remember to open the lid away from your face. You don't want to facial from that hot steam. And then gently remove the jars, one at a time. Check that out. Isn't that pretty? One thing you'll notice is you see how it's still bubbling? That's how hot the contents are. So glass is a great insulator, so just keep that in mind. Don't touch it. And make sure you space the jars an inch apart so they have adequate airspace to cool. And that is vegetable bean soup. So the recipe and my modifications to the recipe are below, so you can check the recipe out in the show notes below. Please like and subscribe my page as well if you have a moment. And if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, feedback, concerns, by all means, you can reach out to me. I'm on Facebook at Stacey Can Can. You can at me on Instagram and TikTok at Stacey Can Can. My website is www.staceycancan.com, and my email is info@staceycancan.com. Thanks again for joining me today, and until next time, happy canning.